Welcome back to Learner's Academy, where we're diving deeper into the world of algebra. In our last video, we tackled equations involving simple addition and subtraction, which, if you remember, were about getting that unknown number by itself. In this video, we're stepping up our game and focusing on equations with multiplication and division. But before we get into the examples, let's take a moment to recall the key strategy for solving equations with unknowns. The main idea is always to get that unknown value. Let's call it x, isolated on one side of the equation. Everything else should be moved to the other side using basic arithmetic. Now, here's the golden rule. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other side. Think of it like a balancing scale. Whatever goes on one side must be done on the other side to keep everything in balance. Now, remember what we learned about addition and subtraction in the last video. If we have a number added to an unknown, we subtract it from both sides. If we have a number subtracted from the unknown, we add it to both sides. Why does this work? It's all about inverse operations, two actions that cancel each other out. Addition and subtraction are inverse operations. They undo each other. Well, guess what? Multiplication and division are also inverse operations. That means we can use division to undo multiplication and vice versa. So, if we have an unknown being multiplied by a number, we can undo that multiplication by dividing both sides by the same number. On the flip side, if an unknown is being divided by a number, we can multiply both sides by that number to reverse it. Sounds a bit tricky right now? Don't worry, it'll become clearer after we walk through some examples. Let's get started with a simple one. 3x equals 12. This equation says 3 times some unknown number equals 12. On a side note, the order of the numbers doesn't matter in multiplication. You could switch the order and write x3, but it's customary to always list the known number first and the unknown number second. Now, to get x by itself, we need to reverse this multiplication. What's the opposite of multiplying by 3? Exactly, dividing by 3. So, to solve for x, we divide both sides of the equation by 3. In algebra, we almost always write division in fraction form, so on the left-hand side of the equation, to divide this side by 3, we just write a fraction line under it, and we put a 3 below the line. There, this means 3 times x divided by 3, and we are left with just x. But don't forget our rule for rearranging equations. We have to do the exact same thing to the other side to keep the equation balanced. Therefore, on the right side, 12 divided by 3 equals 4. Now, the equation looks like this. X equals 4. That's the solution. Simple, right? Let's try another one, just to make sure we're on track. Let's say we have this equation. 12x equals 84. Again, the unknown x is being multiplied by 12. So, we'll undo that multiplication by dividing both sides by 12. On the left, 12x divided by 12 cancels out the 12, leaving just x. On the right side, 84 divided by 12 is 7. So now we have x equals 7. Great job. You're on a roll. But what if we're dealing with division instead of multiplication? Let's try that next. Here's the equation. X divided by 2 equals 3. At first glance, it looks a bit different, right? But don't worry, we can still apply the same idea. Right now, the unknown x is being divided by 2. To get rid of that division, we'll need to multiply both sides of the equation by 2. The 2 in the numerator and the 2 in the denominator cancel out. That leaves us with just x on the left side. On the right side, 3 times 2 equals 6. Now we have x equals 6. There you go. You've solved another equation involving division. Let's take a look at one more division problem. What if the equation looks like this? X divided by 10 equals 15. The unknown x is being divided by 10. So to isolate x, we multiply both sides by 10. On the left, the 10 in the numerator and the 10 in the denominator cancel out, leaving just x. On the right, 15 times 10 equals 150. So our solution is x equals 150. Now you're ready to solve equations with multiplication and division. But there's one last tricky situation to address. What happens if we have a number divided by an unknown? This is a little trickier, but don't worry, we can handle it. Let's say we have this equation. 4 divided by x equals 2. At first glance, it may seem like we should just multiply both sides by 4, but that won't quite work. If you multiply both sides by 4, you'd end up with 4 times 2 on the right side equal 8, but that doesn't help isolate x on the left-hand side. Instead, we get 4 times 4 divided by x, which comes out to be 16 divided by x. So what do? Instead of multiplying by 4, we multiply both sides by x. By multiplying both sides by x, we eliminate the x on the denominator, the bottom part of the fraction. On the left side, the x in the denominator cancels with the x we just multiplied by, leaving us with just 4 on the left side. So now the equation becomes 4 equals 2x. Now we can solve this like we did in the other examples, sides by 2. So 4 divided by 2 equals 2, and on the right side, the 2's cancel out, leaving just x. Therefore, our solution is x equals 2. And there you go. You've solved an equation with division by an unknown. So by now, you should be able to solve simple one-step equations involving addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. But here's the catch. Just like with subtraction in our last video, you need to practice these techniques to get really good at them. The more problems you solve, the more familiar these concepts will become. To sum it up, solving equations with multiplication and division is all about reversing the operation that's affecting the unknown. Multiply to undo division and divide to undo multiplication. Simple, right? But keep practicing and soon you'll be solving these equations in no time. Thanks so much for watching this video on Learners Academy. If you found this helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And as always, stay curious, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next video.